It's all you. Go. Go.
Good evening, folks. Good evening. Welcome to tonight's Conscious Contact Speakers Group meeting. I'm Tim, and I'm an alcoholic. This is a one-hour speaker meeting that meets every Saturday night here at St. Paul's Lutheran Church, 301 North Main Street, Doylestown, PA. The purpose of our meeting is to provide a consistent message of hope and recovery through God, reliance, and service to others through the practice and teachings of the 12 steps. We record all speakers so that others may benefit from their message. If you wish not to be recorded, please ask. This is an open meeting of AA. The group would like to welcome everyone, especially newcomers. Is there anyone here tonight who is new or from out of town that would like to introduce themselves with their first name? Yes, sir.
Brian, I'm alcoholic.
Brian, welcome. Yes, ma'am. Welcome, Jean. Welcome. Yes, ma'am. Welcome, welcome, Chris. Yes.
Susan from Winter Park, Florida.
Oh, well, welcome, sir. Welcome, welcome, very good. Okay. Any others? Okay, very good, very good. The Conscious Contact Speaker Group would like to encourage sponsorship. Would anyone who has a working knowledge of our 12 steps and is willing to sponsor, please raise your hands now. Thank you. If you're here for the first time, those hands are a lifeline. Are there any announcements tonight for the good of AA? All right. We have meeting lists and we have big books, and they're all on easy terms. Please see me or Ron before or after the meeting. We can make books available to you if you cannot afford one. Anyone willing to make donations for purchase of big books and CDs for our recordings, there's a jar in the back table. Please feel generous to leave something there. If you would like a CD of our speaker tonight, anything past or present, please see Ron before the meeting. They are also available to you at no charge. I would like now to introduce Brian to come up and read the AA preamble.
Hi, I'm Brian. I'm an alcoholic. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength, and hope with each other, that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organization, or institution, does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any cause. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. And I've asked Sanjay to come up and read the 12 steps.
Thanks, Brian.
These are the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. Step 1, we admitted we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives had become unmanageable. Step 2, came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. Step 3, made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood Him. Step 4, made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. Step 5, admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. Step 6, we're entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. Step 7, humbly asked Him to remove our shortcomings. Step 8, made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. Step 9, made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. Step 10, continued to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. Sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood him, praying only for knowledge of his will for us and the power to carry that out. Step 12, having had a spiritual awakening as the result of these steps, we try to carry this message to alcoholics and to practice these principles in all our affairs.
Folks, we have a seventh tradition around here that every AA group ought to be fully self-supporting, declining any outside contributions. At this time, I'd like to pass the baskets on both sides of the room. As you all know, we have no dues or fees, but we do have expenses for all the goodies that you guys have been enjoying. There is absolutely no smoking anywhere on the church property. Please, please, please adhere to that. Also, while you're taking some money out of your pocket, go ahead and sit and silence your cell phones. Either turn them off or hit the mute button or turn the volume down, whatever works for you. As you guys know, the month of September has been Ladies' Month, and it has been epic. We're in our third week of Ladies' Month, and it's been really a fantastic month. So it is with great anticipation I introduce our speaker tonight. She is a very good friend of the Conscious Contact Group. She's come all the way from Roselle, New Jersey. She's on loan with us tonight from her home group, which is the 7 a.m. beginners meeting at Cheers. I love that. Please welcome Beth B.
Hi everybody, my name is Beth and I'm an alcoholic. And I have a good luck charm from a nice young lady in the back of the room. It's a shotgun, it's awesome. So I'm an alcoholic and only by the grace of God, my day of grace is August 22nd, 1991. I don't know how that happened. I don't know why I'm still here. I recently celebrated and I spent about a week in tears because I really don't know why I still get to be here. I don't know why I get to show up. I don't know why I get to have the life I have because I see so many people that don't get to stay here. I don't buy into relapse as a choice. I believe that we can do a lot of things to help the quality of our sobriety and to help maintain this wonderful lifestyle. But I believe that God either removes the problem or he doesn't. And so I don't know why I get to be here, but I am grateful. So me, I get to talk about me. I don't do that often. I was born in New York. And I had my first drink when I was 4. My parents used to have like social, normal, regular parties in the finished basement of the house we lived in, and we would wake up early on Saturday morning to watch Saturday morning cartoons, and we would go downstairs and sneak downstairs, and it was like we weren't allowed to watch TV, so it was like the TV was like on 4, and we'd be like this next to the TV, and there were some half-empty glasses, and my older brother was like, you should totally drink that. So I did. And I remember there was a cigarette butt in it. Should have known. I didn't start drinking with intent to get drunk until I was, I think, in 5th grade. I come from an abusive background. Every therapist I've ever sat with says that apparently I had a terrorized childhood. My father was abusive, my mother was abusive, both of my brothers were abusive. I feel like looking back on my life, I kind of describe it as I was raised in a box. So drinking came very natural to me. Where most kids would come home from school and put their backpack down and do their homework and have some cookies and milk or whatever, I would go to the liquor cabinet and get Bacardi Clear Rum and sit in front of the TV and watch Tiny Toons. And I did that as often as I possibly could. I never, ever fit in anywhere I went. I've always felt like everybody was speaking a different language, like somebody got an instruction book that I didn't get. I was very alone, and I always felt like if I could just disappear off the face of the earth, I would probably feel a lot better. I didn't, people ask kids all the time, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I never answered that question because the only thing I could come up with was get drunk. By the time it was time to go to high school, I decided it was time for a makeover. I was the kid that everybody made fun of. I was the kid that didn't have any friends except for that one friend. And my experience in Alcoholics Anonymous, we all had that one friend, that one normal friend. And I had that normal friend. So I decided to have a makeover. I went to England on business. I owned my own boarding kennel. And I used to show dogs as a kid. So a client of ours had me come over for the summer. In between grammar school and high school for the summer, I spent 3 months over there, and I drank the entire time. I got my hair frosted, so I was a blonde, which did not look good. And I would wake up at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I would drink. I would take care of some dogs, and I would go to sleep at like 12 or 1 and sleep until 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I did that for 3 months. We went to Scotland for a dog show. I constantly put myself in harm's way. In a bar, drinking, and some guys kind of cornered me. I was very lucky to get out of that safe. God always showed up, even when I wasn't asking him to. I believe that I was safe and protected through my alcoholism, through my active alcoholism. My drinking isn't anything different than anybody else's, except I was probably a little bit younger. When I came back to the States, I went to a new high school. I changed my name. Nobody knew me, and I could recreate my life. I started dating, and it's actually kind of interesting looking back on it. When my freshman year in high school, I dated, I think, like 30 different guys, and it was all about the chase, and he's cute, and she's cute, and he likes me, and I like him, and then he'd ask me out, and we would be boyfriend and girlfriend, and then he'd want to actually have a real conversation with me, or hold my hand, or get to know me, and I was like, whoa, back off. It's a little bit too much, back away. I was the master of not being seen. Nobody got to know me. Nobody really asked me any personal questions because I didn't really have anything to offer the world. I was an empty shell walking around just trying to get drunk as often as possible, which is not easy when you're 14 and 15. I did fall in love, and it took me a year to talk to him, and I thought that was pretty good. So we started dating, and he asked me if I ever used non-conference approved substances, and I said no, but I would really like to. And the reason I share that is because I feel like it accelerated my bottom in a way that got me here when I got here. I swear I didn't know that he was the biggest drug dealer in school. I just fell in love with him. We attract each other, or completely repel each other, but I feel attracted to you people all the time. And he was one of us. And my bottom accelerated extremely quickly. I emptied my parents' liquor cabinet. My parents had been married for, 20-something years, and they still had bottles of champagne and wine from their wedding. They did not drink at all, so I finished everything. And he got busted, and I got brought in to the family counseling or the student center or whatever it was. And for the first time in my entire life, my mom actually showed up at the school. And they sat me down and said, we just want to know what your drinking is. Do you drink alcohol? And I said, yes, I drink alcohol, once in a while. Well, we would like you to go to this program, this aftercare program, as a potential alcoholic. And I was like, okay. Yeah, I wasn't I didn't know what was going on. I often still don't know what's going on. So I was just like, okay. So I went to this aftercare program and I met this woman, Lorraine, and she was sober for a lot of years and she had all her degrees and she was the counselor there. And she said, Beth, we're really glad that you're here. We just want to make sure that you're safe and that you don't get involved with the wrong kind of people. And it's funny because I thought to myself, I think I am the wrong kind of person. How do we deal with that? But I kept my mouth shut, I kept my head down. And because I'm an alcoholic, I was not able to maintain the schedule that they asked me to adhere to. So I stopped going because I was too busy getting drunk. I didn't understand to not show up when you were drunk or to show up when your urine would be clean or any of that kind of stuff. And so I just stopped going. And they brought me back in. I don't remember how it happened, but they brought me back in and I was drunk when I went. I don't know how I got there. In fact, I don't remember this whole year or two of my life, pretty much. It's been pieced together for me by most of the people in my life. So they wound up putting me in a rehab. And I was 16 years old. It was a locked unit in Summit, New Jersey, which I actually know where that is now, only because I live right next door to it. And, I was that kid that my father beat the hell out of us as kids. You didn't make a move wrong. I'm incredibly intuitive. I know the mood of everybody that's around me, and I'm going to be very careful to not cross anybody out of fear of what would happen. And so I kept my head down in rehab, and I was the good girl. And I remember at some point they asked me to do a 4-step, and I did it. I don't remember what I wrote on it, but I do know that my counselor, I don't know if it was mine or not, but we were in group in front of all the kids, and he literally threw it at me. I don't know what was talked about beforehand, and I don't know what was talked about after the fact, but I do remember very clearly that he threw it at me, and I guess that was him telling me that it was crap. But that was how I lived my entire life. I didn't know what was being talked about next to me or to me. I couldn't comprehend anything. I couldn't show up. I couldn't do anything, but I knew how to drink. And I knew that when I drank, I felt better. I left rehab. My dad gave me a cigarette in the parking lot. And 2 days later, I was drinking again. I don't remember anything that happened in rehab. But now everybody was watching me now. The aftercare was watching me. My parents were actually looking at me. The school was watching me. Everybody was watching me and wondering what I was going to do. And I was like, I can't really tell you because I don't know. I got kicked out of the school that I was in, so I had to go back to the school that I was supposed to be in. I don't remember that. I do remember that they came down to my shop class and escorted me from the building because I had a 22 average. And they were like, this isn't working out for you. And my response was, okay, I'll just go. I'll go where you want me to go. I was an empty shell of a human being, and my drinking just continued, and I didn't go to the other school because I didn't really know how to get there, so I just didn't go. Got an opportunity to go to my grandparents' house in New Mexico, and my plan, I was 16, I was 17. My plan was to go down there, drink. My grandparents, they wouldn't know, and die. That was my plan. I'll sign up at the high school. Maybe I'll go, maybe I won't, but I can definitely drink. I went down there, and I made it from June until August. My father had a tap on the phone lines at my house, and I had a friend of mine. Apparently, I moved a friend of mine into my house because her father was a heroin addict, and I felt that my home was a better living environment for her. It was not. But she was living at my house, and I didn't remember that I did this until about 10 years ago. But I called her, told her all the stuff I was doing, and my father heard it on the wiretap because my parents were getting a divorce, and that was fun. And he heard everything that I was doing, and he called the house, and I answered the phone. Thank God I answered the phone. And my father's Sicilian, My grandparents both immigrated to this country when they were teenagers. Respect of your elders is probably, there's nothing more important in his family. And I had, in his mind and in reality, disrespected our family. He was gonna come down and he was gonna kill me. And he wasn't kidding, and I'm not being facetious, and I'm not, it's not a metaphor. He was gonna come to New Mexico and kill me. And I remember this very clearly. My grandparents had linoleum flooring, and the reason I know this was because my face was on it, and I was, had the phone stretched with the cord all the way down, and I'm on the floor, and I'm sobbing, crying, and my face is literally sticking to the linoleum, and I'm sobbing, crying. And in that moment, in the depths of who I am as a human being, I swore that I would never drink again, that I would go to AA. I'd been to AA right after rehab. They start you with the, hey, you have to go to AA, and I was like, all right, whatever. And I remember sobbing, crying, probably for the first time in my life. I was really, truly sorry for what I had done. And I convinced him to not come to New Mexico, but I was gonna have to go home at some point and face the music. And I said, okay, I will go to an AA meeting and I'll have Grandpa take me, and I promise. And he's like, okay, fine. And I got off the phone and I literally wiped the tears off of my face, went to the bathroom, reapplied some makeup, and left the house to get drunk, as if nothing had happened. I think one of the things that happened that brought me to a place of bringing me home was in order to continue what I told my father, I had to go to an AA meeting. And so I had my grandfather drive me to an AA meeting that was in the book in New Mexico, and nobody was there. And we drove around the church, and the doors were locked, and we kind of sat there for half an hour. My grandfather was the quietest human being I've ever met in my entire life. To this day, the man never said anything, ever. And so we just sat there in silence, and he cocked his head and he looked at me, and he said to me, he said, why can't you just not drink? And I didn't know. In every fiber of my being in that moment, something started to make sense, that I had absolutely no control over whether I was gonna pick up a drink, how much I was gonna drink, when it was gonna stop, where I was gonna go, what I was gonna let happen to my body, who I was gonna be with. I had absolutely no choice. So we went home, and I went out and I got drunk. And that moment of clarity from God must have struck something in me. I was with some people that I didn't know well. Of course, I went down there and got another boyfriend, because that's what you do. And we were on top of this mountain in New Mexico, and they have those trolley cars, or whatever, those cars that go up the mountain and they come down. I'm just letting you know, as a point of information, that apparently they shut off at midnight. We did not have watches, so we got stuck up there. And it was a bad night. And it hit me like a ton of bricks. Like God was talking straight to me. You know you're not where you need to be, and you know you're not doing what you need to be doing, and I need you to go home. And I said, okay. So the next day was August 22nd. Waited for the trolleys to start again, or whatever they're called. And I came down, I went to my grandparents' house, and I called my mom, and I asked her if she would buy me a plane ticket home. And she said yes, which was shocking to me. It was a $300 plane ticket. I had to pay her back, which was fine. I just really wanted to come home. I detoxed at home for 3 days. This whole time, I don't remember. But the girl that was living with me, she stayed with me for 3 solid days, and I just laid in bed and shook. I didn't stop shaking for about a year. I didn't eat for about a year. I drank a lot of coffee, and I went to meetings. It was all I could do. My first meeting back was at the Pyramid Club, which is no longer open, but it was this really great place, and you can still smoke in meetings. So it's like you walk up 3 flights of stairs, and of course there's the witty sign that says the elevator to sobriety is broken, please use the steps. I love that. And so I went up to the Pyramid Club, which I'd been before, when I was that, spunky teenager that used to sit. It was an old bar in Prohibition, so they still had the bar, and I would sit at the bar and I would pontificate on how to work the 12 steps in 12 minutes and how I know what this is all about, and the traditions are just that, they're traditions. You don't really have to pay attention to those because they're just traditions, and nobody does traditions. But I was an expert who couldn't stay sober, and so I went back up to the Pyramid Club, and I was scared. And I saw somebody I knew, and I was like, "Hey, Ryan," and he was sitting next to this. It looked like a girl. She looked like she was 12, which meant I was better than her because I was 17. And she had these big glasses and like wild, weird, not combed hair, and she just looked really homely and easy to take advantage of. So I was like, "Hey, who's the newcomer?" And she's like, "I'm Jeannie." And "Who are you?" I said, "Well, I'm Beth. Everybody knows who I am." And I'm like, "How long have you been sober?" And she goes, 4 years. "How long have you been sober?" I was like, 3 days. And there began the ego deflation. And I asked her, I think it took me a week or two, but I asked her to be my sponsor. My parents were getting a divorce. I was sober 30 days. I was a senior in high school. My dad had a restraining order against me. My mom was collecting child support, kicked me out of the house, and I was homeless. And I had so many issues other than alcoholism, that I was just a loose child wandering the world with nowhere to go. I couldn't hold a job. My first year, I think I got a job like every 2 to 3 months, maybe every month. I'm pretty sure I worked at Shelby's for like 3 days, and they told me to get out. I couldn't live anywhere for more than 3 to 4 months. I could not be or let anybody near me or get to know me longer than that before I fled. And so I would sleep on people's couches, and I would rent rooms from people, but I couldn't settle anywhere. I was broken. I was 18, broken, no life ahead of me, no goals, no aspirations, no education. I didn't finish high school. I did really, really well in high school my senior year. I was sober, and I only went to school. They did the math, and they said, "Beth, you show up 3 to 4 days a week for school," because I couldn't show up. I was suffering from major, major depression, and would lock myself in my room for 3 days at a clip, listen to Billy Joel, Glass Houses, side A and B. I have the entire thing memorized. If you'd like me to write the lyrics, I can. That's what I was capable of doing. And my sponsor used to tell me, she was wonderful. I thank God for this woman, and we're still friends to this day. She came and visited me a couple of years ago when we lived in Charlotte, and she was amazing. She was exactly what God put God put her in my life for the perfect amount of time. She read the big book, and I could read, right? So I could say came to up and read, right? So I could say the words, but the comprehension was not there. I was cooked. She used to tell me every single night, read Spiritual Experience, because I didn't know what God was. I wasn't raised religious. I wasn't raised with God for or against. I didn't understand even the concept of what God was, and I thank God for that, because it's made it my growth in my relationship with my higher power very, very easy. But I didn't understand what God was, and she'd tell me to read Spiritual Experience, and to this day, I read it every single day for the first year. I still don't remember it, and I've read it since, and I don't know. But I would read it every single night, and she told me I needed to start praying. So I was like, "Well, what's that?" And she says, "You get down on your knees and you talk to God." And I was like, "Okay. Is he in the room?" And she's like, "Well, yeah." I'm like, "Is he here right now?" And she's like, "Yeah." I'm like, "All right, I'm just going to go with it." So I started praying, and I started writing in a journal. I was going to 14 meetings a week, trying to go to school, always finding a new place to live. Everything I owned, I got my license in recovery. Of course, I turned 17, and then I turned 18, and then February came, and then I got my license. I'm late to everything, so, why not that too? And Got my license, I had a Honda CRX. Everything I owned, have you ever seen a Honda CRX? It's that tiny little Honda hatchback, right? It's no back seat, she's got a little, right? Everything I owned could fit in my Honda CRX. And I was proud of that because when I moved, it was just a one-man show, man. Throw everything in, go find a new place to live, put everything away in an hour, and I'm home. So my sponsor was good to me. She let me stay with her for a couple months, and I couldn't handle that, and so I stayed somewhere else, and she would pick me up for meetings before I got my license, and I would do it. And then this was my life. I got sober, and I didn't go through the book right away. I got sober, and I went to meetings. I went to the diner. I was thinking about this on the way out here, and I haven't thought about this in forever. I went to the diner so much that the people at the diner bought me one of those signs that said, "Reserved for Beth." Because I was at 14 meetings a week, and if I wasn't at a meeting, I would just go to the diner. And I had this host of friends. I don't really know where any of them are. I know that 2 of them are still sober. There were probably 20 or 30 of us. We were all young. We were all fighting for our lives. None of us went through the book. I did this. This is what I did. I went to a halfway house when I had 2 years sober. Everybody in AA was my family because I didn't have any family. And this girl came in and she's talking about going to a halfway house, and she just came out and she's coming to town and she's getting settled, and she learned how to brush her teeth every day, and she learned how to make her bed and how to get a job and keep it. And she was really excited to be here and all of this, and I was like, what? You're supposed to brush your teeth like every day? I swear to God, I grew up in a box. And so I walked up to this woman, Pat, after the meeting, and I was like, Pat, did you hear that girl share? Yeah, that sounded really cool. What's a halfway house? She's like, I run one, and you're moving in on Monday. And so I was like, okay. So I went and moved to a halfway house. Again, didn't go through the book of Alcoholics Anonymous. And I kept doing this. I spent 7 months there. I did learn how to make my bed. That was awesome. I am now a bedding snob. My bed is awesome. But again, didn't go through the work. I bounced around the state of New Jersey. I've lived in every county in North Jersey. I've lived in tons of towns. I've met tons of people and could not continue, right? Every time I would move or get a new job, it was like starting over. Every single 3 months, every 4 months, every 2 months, Beth was starting over, doing this. Now I'm gonna get this. Now I'm gonna do this. It was all self-will. I didn't understand what I was supposed to be doing in these rooms. All I kept getting told was, don't drink, come to meetings, and don't stop coming. I was like, oh, okay, I can do what I'm told, I'm good with that. And I managed to put together 6 years. And I was at the Area 44 convention, and I was in one of those marathon meetings, and it suddenly came to me that I'm gonna go out, I'm over 21, I'm gonna go out and I'm gonna buy Bacardi rum, because stick with what works, and I'm gonna drive my car off an overpass and kill myself. That's what 6 years of doing, not drinking and going to meetings got me. And so I left the meeting and I went and sat in the hallway, and there was this girl who was nuts. Casey's crazy, and I say that with all love in my heart. We're still very good friends to this day, but she's nuts. I mean, I swear to God, so nuts. She used to be a stunt woman. We all come in here and we all learn what the word hobby means. Her hobby is Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Like, she's Casey, and I love Casey. And Casey came up to me in like crazy mode because we were at the dance and everybody was having a good time, and she was like off the rocker, and she comes up to me and she goes, oh my God, what's the matter with you? I'm like, I would like to drink and die. And she stopped dead in her tracks, and she goes, let me go get my mom. I was like, I'm sorry, what? She's like, just stay here, I'm gonna go get my mom. So she gets her mom, and her mom comes up to me, and she looks down at me, and she goes, are you done? And I said, yes. And she said, good. Be at my house, 7 o'clock this Tuesday. I'm writing my address down for you. If you're more than 15 minutes late and locking the door, you can come back another time. Okay? I thank God that if somebody gives me black and white direction to this day, I just do it. I thank God I'm surrounded by all of you lovely people, because you tell me to do good things. And I showed up at her house. And I sat on her couch, and she opened the book, and she started reading from the forwards and the preface, or the preface and the forwards, I don't know. And then the doctor's opinion. And every single week she would tell me to do things like, she would bring me to the bedevilments, and she said, you're gonna write every single day for 10 minutes about the bedevilments and what they look like in your life. And I said, okay. And I was finally beaten to a place in sobriety, 6 years sober, where I was like dying and would do anything. I was ready for the program of Alcoholics Anonymous. And we did our third step prayer, and I was petrified when we did our third step prayer. I was like, well, what do you mean turn my life and my will over to the care of God? What's he gonna do with it? And he goes, Cass didn't really like young people, so she was just very like, here, do this, go away. She was like, he's clearly going to do something better than you've done with it, so let's just go with that. I was like, fair point, okay. Did what I was told, and line by line, anytime I didn't understand a word, we looked it up in a dictionary. And I suggest, even if you do comprehend the English language, when you come to words that seem like poignant in the sentence, look them up. Look them up in the New Dictionary, look them up in a dictionary from when the book was written, and re-look at these words, because I can tell you that it changed my life. We got to inventory. My sponsor, Cass, she does 4-column inventory out of the big book. She busted the columns out for us so that there were 9 columns. Out of the 4 columns, the same 4-column inventory everybody else does, she just busted it out so it would be a little bit easier for us to write on. And I thank God for it, because I have a whole column of where was I fearful? Where was I selfish, self-centered, and self-seeking, and 3 different definitions to show me how I behave in areas when I get hurt or I get angry. And we had a whole column at the end that said, how do I set these matters straight? And I didn't even know it at the time, but apparently I was writing the begins of my amends list. So I did this, and I balked. Everybody balks. I've been sponsoring for a couple years now, and everybody I take through the work balks at some point. They balk at 4, or they balk at 7, or they balk at 9. And I balked at 4, and I don't know why. And I freaked out, and I called my sponsor. I called Cass, and I said, Cass, I'm really having a hard time with this. I just can't seem to finish. And she was nice to me, which I should have known something was up. And she's like, it's totally okay. Yeah, I totally get it. Yeah, why don't you come over to my house tonight and we'll talk about it. Why don't you bring your inventory with you? And I said, okay, great. This is so great. And it was stupid, Beth. And so I show up at her house, and I'm like all excited that like she's gonna have like a talk. We're gonna like do girl talk or something. I don't really know what that is, but we're gonna do it. It's gonna be awesome. And she cleared off a spot. She was a college professor, and so she cleared off a spot on her dining room table with a beeline view to the stove, where she was making like spaghetti and meatballs, like meatballs from scratch kind of meatballs, and I was all sorts of into that. I wanted that, and I was all prepared for our talk. And she told me to sit down. I was like, okay, and get your inventory out. I was like, okay. And she goes, now finish writing. And when you're done, you can have some spaghetti and meatballs. And I was like, oh, okay. So I finished my inventory. That's how I finished my inventory. She's created a sponsor, and I love her for it. So I finished my inventory, and we did my 5th step. And you know what I found out? I found out that everything that I have ever done was based in fear. Every resentment, everything that I stole, everything that I did to people was based in self-centered fear. By this time going through the work, I had a faith in a God. He was in a smaller box than he is now, but at least I had him. And we did this 5th step, and I walked away for the very first time in my entire life. I understood that I was a horrible, horrible person, and that the things that I had done to people were not justified by anything I could come up with. I was wrong. And where most people, I work with sponsees, and a lot of them get really scared walking into 9. Dude, I was so ready to just walk straight to 9. Screw 6 and 7, I'm just gonna go straight to 9 because I hurt some people. But my good sponsor wouldn't let me. I went back to my house and made a list of all of my character defects. I went over my inventory to make sure I hadn't left anything out. And when I tell you that I was beaten to a pulp at this point in life, I left nothing off my inventory, nothing. And I went back to her house and we went over my character defect list. Of course, she pointed out way more character defects than I thought I had, but that's okay. And the funny thing is apparently I'm a creature of habit. I don't have a large, I've seen some people with this huge list of character defects. I stick with what works. I just completely cut you out of my life. Never talk to you again. That was my favorite. Not show up at all. It works. So we did the 7-step prayer, and I wouldn't leave her house, right? So the 6th and 7th step, right? 7th step is going to remove all of these areas, all of these defects of character, and I was going to be doing God's will and not mine now, and I was going to be doing the right thing instead of reacting out of fear, and I was going to reach to God, and I was going to be doing all these things, and I was petrified to get up off of her couch and leave her house, because I was like, you don't understand. These are the only things that have protected me from being killed in the world. That's really how I felt. I felt that all my character defects were my way of keeping everybody at arm's length so that I could be safe. There's nothing more important than safety. And here I was. I'd done the 7th step. I'd agreed to do this process. My sponsor made us all sign in the front of our book, I am willing to go to any lengths, even when I don't understand what any lengths is, and sign it and date it. And anytime we didn't want to do something, she's just like, I'm sorry, what does that say in the front of your book? So she was like, you can stay for a while, and so she went about her business, and then she was like, I'm going to get ready for bed, and I'm like, okay, good. I'll just be sitting here on the couch, and then at some point around 10:30, or maybe it was midnight, I don't even freaking know, she walks into the living room, she's like, seriously, you have to leave. You have to go home. And I was like, I really can't. And she promised me, and Cass never promises anything, she promised me that I wouldn't die. That's how scared I was. So I went home and I did not die. I was very excited about that. And I started my list. I made my list. I got it from my inventory. Basically, pretty much everybody that I had a resentment against, everything on my fear inventory and harms done others, and my sex inventory, I apparently owed them all amends. And I was rip-roaring ready to get out there and do them. I made direct amends to everybody on my list. I finished my direct amends. I finished the list. And what I found was that most of the people in my life, excluding my immediate family, actually wanted me around. And that most of what I heard was, we were just really sad that you disappeared. We were really sad when you didn't show up. We were really upset and hurt when you just stopped coming around. And I was baffled. Because even with 7 years at this point sober, I still really felt that if I wasn't in the room, no one would miss me. I was just learning that self-esteem can only be earned by esteemable acts done by me. That nobody could love me, that nobody could tell me that I was a good person, because I wasn't going to believe them. I needed to go and actually become a good person. I got a job and I kept it for over a year. I started to strengthen relationships with people that I knew. I started letting people get to know me. And as I finished my amends, I began to connect with the world around me. My entire life, I did not want to connect with anybody or anything. And I experienced this as being the crux of the problem of alcoholism, is an inability to connect, but wanting nothing more than to feel at home, and not getting that the two kind of have to happen together. I started to connect with my community. I started to connect with people that my sponsor sponsored. I started to actually share about me in meetings. And I didn't share about how horrible my life was, but I actually started to share my experience, strength, and hope. And I met this guy, and he was really nice. and I fell in love. And to this day, I'm still shocked. We laugh almost every time we talk about it. The fact that we've been together for 18 years, we've been married for almost 15, and we still like each other. We still like to hang out. In fact, tonight, the only reason that he didn't come with me is because we now have 2 children that we like most of the time. And they're really good kids, and we like them. And I have relationships in my life today. I still have the same sponsor that I had, who took me through the book the first time. And I've actually exposed myself and made myself vulnerable to other women in these rooms, and I've gone through the work with other people in different ways. And if you've never done that, I totally suggest it. It's a great experience to totally trip your ego up and get some more humility, because will never have enough of that. I was thinking about it on the way here, that I really don't know what happened to the girl that I used to be. And I'm really glad she's gone. I'm the kind of person now who will think about somebody and pick up the phone and call them and say, hey, I was thinking about you. I never would have done that. Never in a million years would I have allowed myself to be vulnerable and let somebody else know that I was thinking about them. If I'm in town and I know it's 3 o'clock on a Thursday, I know Anne Marie's home with the baby and she can't get out, and I'll stop at Dunkin' Donuts and I'll just drop it off at the front door and be like, hey man, here you go. I was thinking about you. I know you want this. You can't go get it. And I do things like that today. It's actually funny, when my sponsor agreed to sponsor me, we were at a meeting, a couple weeks after she started working with me. We were just getting into the book, and I realized how serious this was going to be. And I looked at her and I said, I just want to put one thing out there. I'll always do what you tell me to do, but I do not sponsor women because they all drank because of me. And I really, really believed in my heart of hearts that I was like the worst candidate for sponsorship, like ever, like in all of the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous, because if you come near me, you're probably going to drink. And my sponsor just laughed. She was just like, that's okay, Beth. Just worry about getting into the steps and doing what I tell you to do. And I was like, no, you don't understand, man. People, they come near me, I try to work with them. It's like I talk them into drinking. It's crazy. And again, she laughed. She thought that was funny. And my favorite thing in the world to do now is sponsor women. I love sponsoring women. My job as a sponsor is to create that safe environment, right? It's a safe environment of no judgment. No matter what you bring to the table, I don't judge. A place where I can dole out the steps as it's outlined in the book, and you go have your experience with it, and then come back and tell me what that was all about, and what does it look like for you. And I get these women, they come to me, they ask me to sponsor them, and they show up at my house, and this is who they are, and I accept them for who they are, and I create this space for them to have this experience. And then one day, right, inevitably every single one of them, one day they knock on the door and I open it, and it's like the color comes back in their skin. They have this aura about them. I have 2 kids, like I talked about before, who are so awesome, totally polar opposites of each other. And my son, I'm pretty sure he's like a 90-year-old rabbi since the day he's born. And my daughter is like the next president of the United States. I swear to God, she's going to run the world. And they both have these interesting reactions to the girls I sponsor. When they first start coming to the house, Ben will wave and say hi and go in the other room. And Morgan won't make eye contact. She won't even look at them. She's just like, go away. And I always thought I was crazy thinking that I could see this sudden change in the girls that I work with, like watching them wake up. And I thought maybe that's just like Beth's little magic world. But it's not, because my kids, on the same day I open that door, and it's just blatant, right? They've found whatever it is, they're connected in with their God. They're living this dream. They're doing this deal. They're awake for the first time. And I'll open the door, and Ben runs up and gives them a hug, and Morgan will talk to them. Like, it's the weirdest thing ever. Like, watching my children react, it's like this validation that A, I'm not crazy or as crazy as I thought I was, and B, this is real. What we do in these rooms is so real. There's nothing more important than what we do with each other. You know, I lived in Charlotte, North Carolina for 7 years. I'm a Jersey girl, always will be a Jersey girl, so we came home. And the most important thing for me, I connected in down there, went to rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous, to sponsor women, did the whole deal down there, but I flew home every 4 months to have eyeball-to-eyeball contact with the girls that I do this deal with, right? Not the girls that I sponsor, but the girls I do this deal with, right? My network of women, I have to put eyeball to eyeball every 4 months was the maximum that I could go without starting to feel that drain. We need each other forever. And it's amazing the amount of things that we can do together. I really, really believe that the isolation that alcoholism brings is what kills us. And it's by being with each other. It's about experiencing this life together, sharing it with each other, being with each other. It's what makes us feel whole, right? Common problem, common solution. We get to do this deal together. And, you know, I get to do this deal back in New Jersey. And I'm so, I'm overwhelmed lately. I stayed home with my kids for 10 years, which was awesome. And I'm really glad it's over. And I went back to work recently, and I work with these amazing people. I work with these, there are 3 people on my team, and we have this, super awesome boss, and, I get to be a part of this, right? We do something that brings a solution to the planet. We're part of the solution. We're not part of the problem. I get to live that way. I can tell you, as somebody who's been in recovery in AA for a long time, that there will always be dark spots. We all go dark. I've never met a woman in these rooms that I know that hasn't gone dark at some point. And I think the reason that I'm sharing this is because there's hope. I'm an alcoholic. I'm always going to be an alcoholic, and my nature is dark, right? Earl Hightower calls it the beast, right? I have this other part of me that's always going to be there. I can tell you that untreated alcoholism is a very real thing, and it will wreck your life just as bad as drinking. And the only answer to it is God. And the only way that I can get to God when I'm dark is through the women in these rooms, and the men, for all of you men. I'm so lucky that I get to show up here. I'm so lucky that, me and Anne-Marie, we go to our meeting every Saturday morning at 7 a.m. because it's the only time that we can't get dragged away because the rest of the world is still sleeping like normal people. But it's funny because every Saturday morning, the only reason that I drag my butt out of bed is because I know she's waiting for me to pick her up, and the only reason she drags her butt out of bed is because she knows I'm waiting out front to pick her up. I need the girls in my life. I need the steps in my life. I do an active 11 step every single night before I go to bed. Some nights are better than others. Some nights is where was I resentful? And I fall asleep, but I open that book every single night, and I do an 11-step inventory. And in the morning I get up and I look at the 24 hours ahead and I say, God, where are we going today? And what scares the ever-loving bejeebies out of me? Because every single day I need to show up. Every single day I need to ask God to get involved and to show me where the light is, because my nature is always going to be dark. And after doing that for a bunch of time, I've created the reality that I live in. And what I didn't understand until I started doing that was that I've always created the reality I lived in. I just choose God's reality today. I choose the light. I have to choose the light. And every single day I get up, I talk to somebody in recovery. I have a wonderful network of women. I have a bunch of girls that I work with and I sponsor who help me so much more than I could ever help them. And I have this network around me. I have friends, Anne-Marie and I have been doing this deal together in AA since she had a year sober, and it's 18, 19 years later, we're still doing this deal. That baffles me. My nature is to lock myself in my house, pull the shades, and not talk to anybody and just listen to Billy Joel albums. It's actually very appealing. I really would still like to do that because I'm an alcoholic. But what I love even more is when I pull up to the Saturday morning meeting and Anne Marie and I get out of the car and all of the people that we go to the meeting with are there and we're all like together. And we share experience, strength, and hope. It's a beginner's meeting because it's so important to me to maintain contact with people that are still trying to get this deal. My job in Alcoholics Anonymous is to be an example now of what's possible when we work these steps. Not to say that every meeting I go to, I sit there and I say how great sobriety is, even though it is. But I share where I'm at as long as I have a solution or that I'm working on a solution, because we all go through dark in this program. We're going to continue to walk forward together, and the newcomer needs to see that it's possible, right? If everybody who didn't need to go to meetings anymore didn't go to meetings anymore and just met with their network at home, so many more people would be dying. Our responsibility is to continue to walk this path so that everybody else can come too. And I don't even know how to measure my gratitude anymore. So I just keep showing up, which is not my nature. But I just keep doing it. And if you haven't been through the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous, please find somebody to take you through. Have an experience with this work. Have an experience with steps. Do direct amends. Do an 11-step inventory. And although I can't promise you many things, I can promise you that you'll get to choose the life you live instead of being forced to live the life you think you have to. At least that's been my experience. And I'm very grateful that you all actually stayed through the whole meeting to hear me. And thanks for letting me share.
It's customary to thank our speaker. If we form a line when you're done, please thank her. Thanks, Beth. One more time, please, for coming in. Thank you. Wonderful job. Next week, we have Miss Karina D. from Long Island, New York. It will be epic. We always, and we have a ton of food. Please help us finish it if it's not done already. She's coming in from the Solution Group. We got a nice way of closing. See us next week. Have a good night. Thank you. Don't forget the meeting after the meeting. We'll have some fun.